Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Android App Addicts, episode 520. This is the show where we talk about Android apps, Android hardware, Nintendo Switch, bifocals, and whatever else happens to cross our minds. My name is Mark, occasionally known as the Sultan of the Soapbox, and joining me this week is the Grand Poobah of the Podnutz Network, Steve, the DoorToDoorGeek McLaughlin. Hey, Steve. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Mark. I'm doing pretty good. I'll say up here in the north, temperature finally actually dipped to where it feels, I almost need a jacket. I'm a jacket kind of guy. I like the weather where I need a light jacket before I need full coat type thing.
Yeah, it's I think the high today was 73, 74, something like that. And so all the Georgia people got out there Ugg boots and parkas. They were freezing to death. Eric is out work something, right?
I believe that a conference, or he actually secretly is planning on winning that 900 plus $1 million.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with 900. Honestly, truthfully, $900 million would probably ruin your life more than it would help your
Yes, but the question is did you at least enjoy the ride?
life. I didn't even buy a ticket. I've got tomorrow, right? The drawing is tomorrow. So I've got time. I got to at least buy a ticket for $900 million. You got to buy a ticket.
Or at least pitch in with a group buying a ticket, or have your significant other buy a ticket, or your brother, sister, niece, somebody around. Because there are people, I can tell you right now, if I win, they're fine. For the rest of their life, they're fine. They have nothing to worry about. You know what I mean? At least one of them buy it. But, I still stick with, I know the surefire number one way to end the conversation when somebody says, what would be the first thing you do if you were to win that much money? And the easiest thing to say to immediately end the conversation is, well, first thing is there'll be a lot of people dead. They just bank, change the topic, stop talking, walk away, whatever. And that's my goal at work. I'm the guy at work, Mark. If I was standing there and I said that, you would die laughing and then want to ask me more questions.
Yeah. See, part of the joy of the lottery is you buy that $2 ticket and then you've got endless possibilities. And so you can think about how you're going to spend that money. It's entertainment money for me.
I'm a firm believer in there is the brain is a organic machine. It has its flaws, it has its things it's good at, it has its biases that we've had for whatever number of years. I do believe blissfully thinking about what we could do with such fantasy realm, such utopia would be nothing but great things. And I honestly think it's a really healthy thing for a brain to do sometimes. You know what I mean? There's overdoing it, but then there's not doing it enough either. I, you know, um, so I just, say to the wife, first thing we would do is get away and take the people who we care about over to wherever, at least 1,000 miles away. And for at least 45 days, would be telling everyone, okay, calm down. Okay, can you please calm down? Can you please calm down? Just for 45 days. Please calm down. Okay, can you calm down now? Can we calm down now? Are you calm down? Can we calm down now? Just for 45 days, because that's how long it would take, I think, for the buzz to wear off. And then just what would be one thing you would want to do right now that you would feel could better you and better your existence and better everything around you, kind of thing? Oh, go ahead. Let's do it. You'll be leaving tomorrow, go do that. And just do that for X number of years.
Right.
I
You're
don't know.
definitely going to have toys. Right. That's a given. But
Well,
if you've got $900 million and you spend it all on toys, you're the worst example of humanity possible. You know?
yeah, I mean, Honor just, I want to say announced from looking at this stage shot, Huawei, I want to say it was literally like 17 devices. And then they announced their Porsche model of the Mate 20. You would have to literally buy something like 3 million Porsche Honor phones to throw away. I mean, hey, to spend that much money is insane.
Right. So,
Or you have extremely high tolerance and a really bad habit.
so here's the way I look at that. Just to make easy math, let's say you make 100,000 a year. So whatever your budget is, everything in your life is budgeted on $100,000 a year. You win that kind of money, and so we were saying before, if you take the annuity option, you get $45 million a year. Government's going to take a chunk of that. So let's say at the end you end up with 20 million free when it's all said and done. Those are low numbers.
Fair,
all right,
fair.
that's 200 times your 100,000. So whatever you pay on rent now, 200 times that. What if you pay on eating out now? 200 times that. What if you spend on clothing now? 200 times. I can't even conceive of how to spend that much money.
I'll say if this was an episode of Brewster's Millions, youngsters hit pause, go watch that movie. Great movie.
The remake, not the original. The original wasn't that great.
John Candy.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. If you want to try to set that goal for you, I think I could find a way to succeed at that, but it would be uncommonly difficult.
It would be a chore. Absolutely. It would be work to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, but que sera.
Then you get to the end of that year and there's another 20 million deposited. I mean, you can't buy houses every year. I mean, 5-10 years in, you have bought everything you could possibly want several times, and you still have another 20 million coming.
Yeah. I tell you, Mark, I would definitely be thinking philanthropy of some measure, of some magnitude, of some sort. But to me, the most difficult thing about philanthropy isn't the act of doing it, but it's deciding where to go, what to do to try to make the greatest impact.
That would be your new job. Your new full-time job would be giving away money. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah. We did have some actual hardware news, Mark, and I don't know how much you thought. We did have the Project STEM, Project Steer, whatever the hell it's called. The Chrome browser, Assassin's Creed Origins. And I haven't heard much except for it launched. Nobody's saying anything great, grand. No one's saying anything horrible, bad. It's a heavily controlled experiment is what I'm going to say. So, more power to them. I guess.
I do have some hardware news in my own life. My sweet oldest child turned 16 years old yesterday, sweet 16. And for her sweet 16, I replaced her 3-year-old Moto G3 with the new Moto G6 that I tried to buy from Motorola, but they were out of stock. So I went to Amazon and it was here in 2 days. I'm not exactly sure how that worked out. If Motorola doesn't have them, how does Amazon have them? But anyway, once again, as I have always said, I've now owned a G3, a G5, and a G6. And a G4, G3, G4, G5, G6. So I've had all of them in that line. They are stellar everyday use mid-grade phones. They're not super powerful. My OnePlus smokes it in all the specs categories. But in terms of what your wife and daughter, what your non-geek person in your life needs, it is a stellar phone for $300. So that review continues now for 4 years. I've been saying the same thing about the Moto G line of phones.
Well, and I'll say this, you're not the only one. You're one of the few people I respect who actually say that. I've heard only a couple other people say it, and they're typically in South America where Moto set up factories, in fact, and they do product. I will say I've been playing with a Moto X Pure because my phone now once in a while will only hold a charge for like an hour and then just zap out. And I leave it plugged in, and it takes an hour for it to show past 0%. The Motos are amongst the most solidly well-built phones for a good amount of time now, every bit of 6-7 years. And then my son has the E series, and it's a perfectly capable phone. I'll say this, intelligently pull back features without degrading quality, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I misspoke. I said a $300 phone. This was a $250, not even that much. But battery life of 16 to 20 hours with teenager use. The feel of the phone is It feels solid in the hand in terms of construction. It survived, you know, my daughter from 13, the G3 from 13 to 16, and she never had anything more than a thin TPU case on it. You know, it wasn't in an OtterBox or anything. So, you know, I'm just all in on on the Moto G series for entry level phones. At you know, you can if you want the Amazon ads on it, you can give it for like 219.
Yeah, yeah, true. And I want to say Motorola is getting ready to release or just released a device where they guarantee the screen will not break.
Interesting.
I want to say Highlander, who's the old timer, old faithful in the IRC chat. He said he like pre-ordered it, and to which me sarcastically, instinctively think, well, that's a really easy guarantee for a company to make that this screen won't break because then you just ensure everything else on the phone will break first. So then people won't have it long enough for the screen to break. And I say that very sarcastically. Motorola's hardware to me is not the best there ever was kind of thing. They are constantly top tier though.
Right. Yeah, the chat room agrees with me too. We've got a Moto G, Moto G2, Moto G3, Moto G4, and Moto G5 all represented in the chat room. And you know, I think Bodot says it best, not great, but very good. And that's all you need. And yeah, I wouldn't buy that phone myself just because I'm a speed freak and I need to have a better phone than my wife. That's just my own male ego right there. But in terms of just everyday use for your non-technical person, it's great. The thumbprint reader is lightning fast and it's small. It's the smallest one I've seen, which I find I worry about that a little bit. If it's thin like that and it's only getting a cross section, can it be as accurate as a full size thumb sensor on the G6?
Well, I'll say this: as long as it's accurate enough, and I have no idea how to measure that. As long as it's accurate enough, I would be okay with it. Yeah, it's really difficult to defend. Yeah, man, I would hope it is. I don't hear people complaining about it. I don't hear about people hacking it any easier.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I would assume that within my family, there would be some genetic similarities. If anybody's going to be likely to break into a phone, it would be a family member, right? And none of us can get into any other people's phones. That's a super unscientific thing, but it is true. It does hold up. And you know, I guess that to use your word, Doris, good enough. You know, it gives you basic access to the phone. It gives you basic protection. It's not, you know, military grade to use a buzzword, but you know, it's solid.
Eh, yeah, and, like, I did, I feel like I, channeled Mark Cockrell earlier this week. I was talking to, someone about security, and I was like, "Well, first off, you're using the word completely incorrectly. There is no security. There's only more or less of it. To actually have security entails having no communications. It's
Exactly.
just down." So, no, you can be more secure, and because, bottom line, stuff gets hacked, bottom line, stuff gets leaked, bottom line, passwords get guessed or whatever. It happen, and it's only a question for some people when it's gonna happen. Um, so good enough is lo all you can take is common knowledge and your own personal experience. I will say I'm still looking at the Mate SE as a possible replacement device. I wanna say 220 is how much it costs. That's for the low end model with, I wanna say, 64 gigs of internal space and 6 gigs of RAM. It's a number thing. I'll just say that. And part of me believes that the Motorola G experience is almost, I dare I say this, like an Apple-like experience. I think part of the reason people like Apple is consistency of they know exactly how it's going to act in their hand, like it's gonna constantly take accidental screenshots and stuff like that. It's constant in what it is. And when you pull it out, it does the same thing every time. And the motos I've seen touched over the last couple of years have been unbelievably solid.
I don't I wish I had it in front of me, but I read skimmed an article just this week about one of the Asian manufacturers, well, they're all Asian manufacturers. I think it might have been Huawei or even OnePlus. Their next model of phone was slated to have 10 gigs of RAM. Um, that's getting a little crazy, but why not? We've got it.
Yeah, the, Honor, uh, I'm trying to remember what it was, but there was a Huawei device supposedly going to be announced before November-ish, and they expected the high-end model to have 10 gigs of RAM, and the reason is why not? Why not?
Right.
Android loves RAM. I've said this for years. I've literally listened to podcasts long enough to where I've heard their Android experts from websites we've all heard of. Those experts say, 6 gigs of RAM is stupid. Well, just give me 4. I've heard them say that on the show. And now that at least they're coming around a little bit to starting to understand more RAM cannot equal worse experience on an Android device. Sure, maybe if you go up to like 100 gigs, maybe you'll get a worse experience. But what we have net today, Android is a RAM machine. It just makes more RAM makes everything run faster, smoother, better. Um,
If you can use it.
well, no. If extra is fine because extras, then you have fault tolerance for when segments go bad, they automatically get reassigned, so it gives you more wiggle room. There's a reason why devices degrade over time.
Right.
It isn't just the battery, it isn't just the processor, it isn't just the eMMC type storage device. It's the RAM itself too. It all ages with use, and we use the crap out of these things. And really quick tangent, Mark. For people out there that try to talk down about smartphones, how they're like downfall to society kind of mentality, about how they're ruining people and about how you're getting back to nature, kind of you feel better when you don't use your phone kind of thing. I'll say this: shame on you for being unconditionally and I mean, limitlessly biased. It is not good, it is not bad, it is a thing. How that thing interacts with you is up to you. If you take anything too far, whether it be ice cream, whether it be an Android device, a game console, whether it be pleasuring yourself, anything too far, it's unhealthy. Stop claiming these things are unhealthy because I can tell you they've been very beneficial to my overall health. I mean,
It's always been true that your pet sin is worse than my pet sin.
well, and that's the thing. It means something different to everybody. And if anybody hears podcasters talk down about smartphones, just email them perception is reality. Because I guarantee you, if they hear those 3 words and they stop for a split second about what rhetoric they spew, they would definitely agree with such a term because it is. That's one consistent thing between beings. Perception is reality.
It's true.
I can't tell Mark how to think. I'm not going to even attempt to tell Mark how to think. Mark is Mark. His perception is his reality. I'm just going to revel in the fact that we can entertain each other every week about our own personal exploitations thereof.
I read some on the same line. I read some research. This was a long time ago, 20 years ago, um, about the color perception in the human eye. And like, for example, the color that I call green, you might see as the color that you call blue, but we've all been trained to use the words green or blue. And there's some evidence to suggest that we actually interpret wavelengths differently. And that what we call our favorite color, we may all actually have the exact same favorite color biologically. We've just used a different name because we've been trained. So in that vein, physically speaking, physiologically speaking, perception is reality. There's no way around that.
Well, and there's more, and it goes deeper, and it goes scarier, and it's our perception of color is not how it is. If we were to look at what we look at on a daily routine with a unabated view, an unabated spectrum of everything going on around us, things would look remarkably different, not just our own perceptions there of color. Um, because there's so much more going around outside of our little narrow perspective of view that we just don't see. Um, So we literally made up terms color. We literally made up terms vegetable. We literally made up these categories of things, um, which is amazing. Yet it's the little thing that goes between us that sews together existence and culture and society and community and yada yada yada. It's That's the kind of stuff I find absolutely mind blowing. Those are the kinds of conversations, Mark, when I was around 17, 18, working fast food overnight shift. We would just have conversations like that all night about I guess now in hindsight, it would be a little bit of philosophy. I don't know. Philosophical type topics, I guess. I don't know.
Well, why don't we philosophically discuss some Android apps?
And we have, I think, more than a couple emails. Well, first, I gotta say, we did not discuss really much at all the Android announcements, the Google announcements. Oh, sorry, I said Android. During the whole thing, it's like they didn't say the word Android once. It's like they're trying to distance themselves from the term Android. What? Isn't that kind of like Microsoft not saying Windows? I mean, I don't know. They're all the hardware extremely meh and extremely Apple-like in price. We're not gonna talk about it on this show because we're normal people with normal people who own stuff like Moto G3s listening to us. If we expected to have people listening to us using a slate, we would talk about it. But we don't expect people to buy a slate. They'll listen to us is what I'll say. Um, Stardew Valley is coming out on mobile. It's coming out on iOS first, then Android. I'm going to do my best to be here every week, Mark. I don't know. Um, I'll also say the opposite has happened, and that is Game Dev Story, an old game from Android that I loved playing, is now available on the Switch. It's $12. I'm not paying $12 for it. I'm gonna put it on my wish list. Comes out on price, I'll probably end up buying that too. But, Stardew Valley, Mark, I can guarantee you one thing. It is an unbelievably spreadsheet friendly game. You could play it from an hour, you could play it for 4 hours, you would never play it again, is the only thing I'm sure about. So, you know.
All right. I actually hadn't gone through and looked at the emails here, but we do have quite a few new patrons on Patreon. We'll talk about those a little later on.
Yeah,
But
I noticed I logged into Patreon and I see a little bell, and I'm not getting all the emails I should be, is what I'm gonna guess, because that bell has a number to it, like, greater than 12. That's a lot. Yeah. One thing I will say, we hate seeing this. I hate seeing this happen, but it's one of those inevitabilities with software. Um, Back in the day, when you got your brand new and shiny Apple computer or your Windows 3.1 computer, there was a lot of software you had to buy to get the functionality out of it you needed. Nowadays, if you have a browser, you're 80% of the way there. You're fine. But Android is slowly sucking up and killing apps that we brought to the show or we like. One of them now being Glimpse. It's basically killing all the functionality that was in Glimpse that we knew was going to happen, I would say, sooner or later. In Google Maps on Android, you can now share trip progress via other apps. This literally came out 6 hours ago. I haven't had a chance to try it. As long as it will remain open and continue to update, I love the idea. I love it. But I'm sad to see Glimpse go. I enjoyed Glimpse.
well, I used to be a Glimpse user and it stopped. I don't want to say stopped working, but the functionality of it changed pretty dramatically several versions back to where it really wasn't this thing anymore. Um, so I'm glad to have that back. I share my location with my family and but it would be nice sometimes to share it with, like, if I'm going to visit somebody, like, say I'm going to meet you, Door, down at Podcast Expo. It would be nice if we shared our progress with each other temporarily, but I don't want you to see where I am all the time. So it's a nice little feature there. I haven't used it yet, but cool. But yeah, moment of silence for Glimpse.
Yeah. I will say on my son's phone, I went into his Google Maps, speaking of the opposite, and I went in location sharing, and then on mine, I had a plus, and I added on my son's phone, I added me, and I basically clicked permanently. So now anytime I want, I can load up my Google Maps. I can go to location sharing. I can see where he's at any point in time. As a parent, I love that a lot. And
Yep.
as a trip progress meter, to have all that already right there, nice is what I'm gonna say, especially if it's literally just like one click. Because I've seen it change, I don't know about you, Mark. My Android Auto has went through at least 2 updates in the last month and a half, 2 months. I've seen good periodic updates on my Android device, of maps in the last 3 months, where they're changing what's going on in some of the menus and some of the sub screens. Now, at least on Android Auto, when I do a directions and I start navigation, I can say search along route and it actually works where it didn't work for a very long time.
Right.
So,
And they're doing the predictive stuff. They've moved that out of Google now, which they've killed, and they've moved some of the Google Assistant features straight to Maps, so that at around 4:30 every day, my Google Maps pops up my navigation information to go home. Google now used to do that. Now the app itself does that, and it's kind of cool. At a glance, I have this notification, and I can see the color. It goes from green to yellow to red, and so it's like, all right, it's getting yellow. I need to leave now, and that's a neat little feature. Actually, more than what Google now used to have. But yeah, it is definitely something that Google is putting their time and money into. What I am concerned a little bit, not a lot, but I'm concerned about how much I am growing to be dependent, not on Android, not on my phone, but on Google.
mhm.
My mail, my calendar, my to-do list, my maps all depend on this one company. And I don't know that I'm looking to replace them or anything yet, but it is something that I've certainly paid a lot of attention to.
Well, okay, and I think this is a good part of the conversation then. Okay, here's the gimmick. Here's what I believe. It isn't that you're using Gmail. It isn't that you're using Task. It isn't that you're using Calendar. It isn't that you're using YouTube. It isn't that you're using Android. It isn't that you're using Maps. It isn't that you're using Google Plus. It isn't that you're using whatever. It's the fact that you know that they can at any point in time have a problem with that account, and it's going to be very difficult to rebuild all that
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So, really, to me, what you're worrying about isn't your interactions with them. What you're really worrying about is their trust in you. Here's follow me here, Mark. Google has the token, Titan. It's basically a YubiKey with NFC built in. You can buy it for $50. These absolute incompetent journalists on shows not comprehending at all how security works, talking about the Titan to me is comical, Mark. It is not a security device for you. What that key enables is Google to have greater trust in you. You're spending $50, so Google trusts you more. It has nothing to do with your personal security, okay? Because everything you do on Google is on Google's servers, okay? It's about them trusting you, them giving you access to their servers. That's what, to me, that Titan's about. So if you really genuinely worry about your life cycle in Google not coming to an abrupt end or some sort of big hiccup and bumps, I honestly encourage you to spend the $50 on the Google Titan key.
Well, it goes beyond just that. Definitely, the authentication is part of it, but also the Google Plus is going away. Google giveth and Google taketh away. I'm not heavily invested in Google Plus, but if they decided to get rid of Gmail, for example, that is something I'm heavily invested in and have been for close to 2 decades now. And I worry about the fact that not only am I using one company heavily, not only am I dependent on that one company, but it is a capricious company that has proven to be user hostile in the past.
They're shareholder friendly, yes. And to me, the scary thing about email is I don't know if you checked it out, Mark. 99% of other people who do email suck at it.
Yes.
And you get spam, you get scams, you get all kinds of crap in your inbox. Um,
And you
to
can't just run your own mail server anymore. I
well,
mean, the heavy geeks like us used to do that, but now ISPs block all that, so it's not even an option anymore.
All you can do is spin up a mail server and make it not in your network. It can't be on your network. It has to be on somebody else's network. You can spin one up and mark and make it like part of a shared trust system, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Personally, I want email to die. It's not going to happen.
Not anytime.
Personally, I know it has about as much chance of dying as me winning the 900 million. Okay, it ain't going nowhere. So to me, I just say, well, then use Gmail as a tool. Realize it's a tool, and when possible, use something else. I do have other email servers, and I'm going to tell you, Mark, nothing I interact with is as reliable as Gmail. I mean, YouTube had an hour's worth of down or whatever the other night, which I just laughed at because I felt like Yoda. I could sense millions of screams of cries of the youth being bored and not knowing what to do. But yeah, Gmail is the trick. You can replace everything else. Calendar, nothing special, nothing fancy. Task, nothing special, nothing fancy. Even search. DuckDuckGo saw almost a 30% increase in US market share.
But DuckDuckGo uses Google, so
Nope, nope. You're actually mistaken. They use like 4 different search engines, and the thing is that they anonymize your communications. So while you do have some Google influence in your search results, Google then does not benefit from it.
no, but my point is if search goes away, Google search goes away, everybody, including DuckDuckGo, is diminished by that. So you can't just say that's a drop-in replacement. It's not.
Well, it is for temporary purpose. Nothing's permanent in this universe, especially a search engine. And it's all about just getting by for right now. So for right now, perfection, if you plan for perfection, plan for failure,
Right.
is what I'll say.
I think that in time, this Google, what you call it, Titan, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in time we will have this digital agent stuff figured out, and I think the phone is where that's going to be. My phone will be my source of identity for all things, for government, for business, for personal, and I will have an intelligent agent, and I will be able to tell that intelligent agent, go make this financial transaction for me, and it will do that. Right now, identity is one of the most difficult things that we can do. We all, have LastPass and have dozens of passwords, and even then, that's not identity, that's access. And so we're going to figure this out eventually, and then things are going to change pretty dramatically. But we're also going to be very dependent once again on whatever that identity is, whatever that digital agent is, and that digital agent is going to have a cloud component, and somebody's going to have to host that. And I think, honestly, that's the way Google is going. They want to be in the next 50 years. They're looking long term. They want to be your authentication agent for everything. And they're doing that by sucking up communications and navigation, all those things. And they'll put it all together where it will literally be your digital assistant, your digital self.
3 syllables. Multipass.
Yes.
Yes. And yes, identity management is to me the buzzword for it. It is a extremely difficult thing, one, to define, because it means different things to different people, to different entities, to different services, to different times of life, everything. It means something different. But it is an extremely difficult thing to do, and companies like Microsoft has proven that they cannot even begin to broach the subject of identity management. Their own identity management on Azure is not using Microsoft technology. So identity management, difficult, hard to do, hard to nail down, hard to define, hard to isolate. But having a smart computer on your person is the beginning to it, because it's about you managing your identity and it managing it for you. It really is hard. And I don't want to say like Blade Runner-esque, but that's the kind of technology where I try to envision, I try to imagine, and there's no doubt I am nowhere even close to remotely correct to what it's going to end up.
Right.
But it's very interesting because it's going to mean a lot. And this is what I tried to tell my wife. That was really mansplaining of me. No, me and my wife had a discussion, and we were talking politics. We're one of the few people I know who are not on the same side of the spectrum of mental disorder called politics. But we actually have conversations. And like one of the things I said to her is, I personally believe healthcare, if you want healthcare for all, that the question is it mandatory? Because that to me is the very first question you have to answer. Is it mandatory? Because if it is not mandatory, it doesn't matter. You can try it and you're going to have people circumvent it and use it as a tool. Um, you'll have people getting illicit drugs, from it. You have people abusing it for whatever way they can. If it's mandatory, then you have to keep track of everybody as well, which means as soon as you, as a doctor, see anybody anywhere, you instantly know their entire history and can handle them correctly. But that's mandatory. That's China. You know what I mean? Not cool. Well, I don't know. I'm not claiming to know the answers. I just claim to be able to identify trouble spots. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to lie to people. Um, yeah, it's not easy, Mark. But yes, I'm looking forward to advancements. Even rings. I do think there's a possibility of like a ring form factor being actual useful and functional, and not just a overpriced pedometer.
Right. I think some of the biggest challenges that face the world today are energy production and identity management. Those
Well,
those two things, can handle. Energy production solves some of the biggest problems, like world hunger and that sort of thing, and identity management can solves wealth issues and distribution of it. Those two things, once they are solved, is going to change the fundamental fabric of society as we know it.
yeah. I used to despise the idea of cloud computing, Mark. And it was because then I did not own the service. I did not own the data. I did not have root. I had a minor epiphany, and that was, if we want to have ubiquitous computing, okay, there I have to accept communication is part of it. I can't do everything in my pocket. I have to rely on external places to do it. And there are places in the world we can set up power type plant things that literally cost zero to do, like solar panels in the middle of a desert, right by a volcano, using thermo things for energy. Having data centers close to them cause much less energy damage, if you will. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have to have cloud computing in order to actually do what these dreams entail.
That was an interesting discussion that all started from a maps update. What else have you got for us to discuss?
Uh, okay, one thing I wanted to bring up, and I got to bring this up, Mark, just because it's an oldie. As soon as I saw it, I immediately just had to play it. One reason, it's by Ketchup. Ketchup. We've done more than a couple apps from Ketchup in the past. This one is called Prince of Persia Escape. It's basically the old school. I don't even know what system this was first on, Mark. Apple II, Commodore 64, something like that.
Or no?
I don't know. It's extremely archaic, is what I'm going to say. Prince of Persia game, slightly modernized graphics, looks more cell shaded, is the way I'll put it, but it's the same basic physics. The one thing I like about it is it's in portrait mode. I'm sorry. There's no better feeling than ignoring somebody at work that you know has no idea what they're talking about, but them looking at you thinking, he's just typing out an email. Yes, I'm just typing out an email. And actually, I'm playing Prince of Persia Escape.
I don't hide it. I just go ahead and play that game in the middle of that meeting, as long as I'm not running the meeting.
They
But
won't let me run anything.
so is this a basic jump, climb, run thing?
Yeah, basically that's all it is, and I'm fine with it. It's a distraction. The word I'm going to use is distraction because it was really good at distracting.
I didn't think about it when I put on this shirt. Am I completely a floating head in your screen?
You're close.
Sorry about that. Or maybe that's a good thing. This reminds me of something. I can't think of the game that it reminds me of, but it reminds me of another game. Not this one, but anyway. That's insouciant commentary right there. Reminds me of something I can't remember. All right. So let me read a couple of emails and give a couple of thank yous. So I'm going to say Renee, perhaps Renee, says, "Hi, AAA. Thanks for the great show and shows I've been with for many years. Today, I pay a small amount to AAA and Podnutz, Linux for the rest of us, a mini PC show, but I do not want to use Patreon because I pay $1 to Patreon, DKVAT, Denmark value added tax, when I pay $5 to Patreon. So AAA only gets $4. Is there another way I could pay money, maybe 2 to 4 times a year? Kind regards, Renee from Denmark." You've got a PayPal thing, right?
The easiest way is PayPal, and the easiest way to get to PayPal is Podnutz.com, DoorToDoorGeek. Click a episode of that, and it's right in the show notes is the PayPal link. Mail@podnutz.com is the email account associated with it. If you don't want to click something in there, and honestly, emailing is a form of donation because you donated time. And let me tell you something: being a parent, Mark, 900 mil. One of the first things I said that would to my wife, what I would do besides getting away, first thing I would do is I would start the kids on an actual, what I consider formal education, and appropriate education is the way I'll put it. Because every day that they don't get what I consider to be top notch education is a day I will never get back in my life, or they'll never get back a day in their life.
That's true.
So just emailing us, trust me, that's appreciated. If you want to support the network, um, you can go to PayPal, mailpods.com. You can click on the DDG show and go through those links. Um, Otherwise, just tweet us. You can go and on the DDG notes, there is a clothing link, but buy a hat. We'll get like $2. You get a hat. I'm not doing the merchandise for money. I'm doing merchandise because I like people, but they won't let me take nothing in Zazzle. So I got to take something. So yeah, just thanks for the email. Thanks for letting us know that there are people across the ocean who enjoy the show.
Absolutely. And we certainly appreciate, Renee, your interest in donating money, and we will certainly take your money. And absolutely, there's no reason you should forfeit 20% of that to any government. So, any international payment option, I think PayPal pretty much has all of that covered. And Patreon, by the way, they have really changed the way they report things. They're now much more honest about the report outs. And basically they're taking, in my case, I don't know if it changes, about 25% of your donation. So the part of that covers the credit card transaction fees, and then there's just a fee to do that. And then so just know that if you give $4 through Patreon, only about 3 of that gets to us anyway. And that may seem like highway robbery, but for the services they provide, that's comparable. I mean, the credit card processing, all of that, somebody has to pay. Somebody's got to get their vig all along the way. The best, freest way to do it would be to do a Bitcoin transfer. If you've got that set up, I know I have a Bitcoin link on my website for that very reason. It's simple, it's non-governmental, nobody takes a piece of it, and it goes straight to me. And then I can transfer it to money, to US dollars or not. But anyway, the key thing there is we thank you for wanting to give more than anything else. And the reason I like Patreon is because it's such a public thing. PayPal, Bitcoin, these things tend to be a little more anonymous. I had a listener give me, I don't know if it was a listener to this show or Geek Rant or the other, send me what I consider a significant donation. And that's a good thing, but only he and I will ever know that. Patreon is a community, and it's a community of people who have all committed to giving. And that's why I like Patreon.
Yeah. And, I'll just say, Chuck, thank you. I love you. I'm starting to hear myself. Is that better? Okay. Yeah, Chuck, thank you. He formally donated towards the next phone. So my next phone is I'm gonna have to do like a ceremony for it on behalf of Chuck. Him and Matthew Fuzzle are basically the reason I'm going to be able to afford a new phone. Thank you. Because the wife, it's not easy to convince her to let me get something that you know costs more than $20. She's a wife.
So I bought my daughter a new phone, as I said, and I just wasn't paying attention. And the new phone required a nano SIM. Her old phone had a micro SIM, and I just wasn't paying attention. So I had to go to the AT&T store. Terrible experience, always, just a given. But the clueless and improper in almost every way salesperson I dealt with had left the paperwork for the people in front of me laying on the table while he was doing my paperwork. It was a ridiculous amount of paperwork to get a 50-cent SIM card, by the way. But anyway, what I happened to notice was that the people who were there in front of me, who sadly I know their name, address, and phone number now because he laid it right there, and I have a photographic memory. So those two things were a bad combination. But anyway, they bought the new iPhone 10XS cubed lightning, whatever, $1,150 they paid for that phone.
Yeah.
It just blew me away. I mean, that's not only a laptop, that's a good laptop for the price of, maybe it's the best phone on the planet. I kind of don't think it is, but even if it is it worth $1,150? If you add up all I got 5 people in my house. We all have phones and tablets. If you add up all that we've spent on phones and tablets, you might get to $1,150.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I mean, they literally named one of their models XS. XS. They literally named their model XS. They're literally shoving it in your face. America, people, population. It's XS. XS. It's XS. I think they're being honest with us about that. For anybody to spend that much money on a phone, I think honestly we have priorities completely wrong. We have the richest poor people in the world in this country, and I think that's a good indication that we're not going to get any better.
Right. I mean, I get, like, take a Rolex, for example. It's a 7, 8, 12, $50,000 watch. It's not about telling time. It's a statement. I own a Rolex and you don't. And so the X phone, the XS phone, is in many ways that it's a statement. I have this and you don't. The problem is that every middle class of, high school dropout wants to have the XS phone and not necessarily the Rolex. So it's this weird sort of entitlement slash statement piece that I don't know if that's existed in this culture before, but it's somewhat unsettling to me that it is both extremely excessive and considered standard equipment at the same time.
Yes, it's so accepted and encouraged is what I don't understand. Because I mean, you can get a mighty fine laptop for $300. Um, I don't understand paying $700 for a phone. The Google Pixel 3, $799, $799. A guy at work said he wants to get one, and I said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're willing to pay $800 for a phone." He said, "Well, it's pretty good." I said, "No, no, it's not that good. It's a phone. What's wrong with you? Do you have too much money? Do you need some hardship in your life? How about someone close to you dying? Maybe that will change your mind because spending $800 on a phone is too much money." And then he was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I showed him like 3 or 4 $400 phones. I said, "Look, this is literally half the price. It's not half the device.
Exactly.
You're literally paying Apple tax. Even though you're buying a Google device, you're paying the Apple tax. You are paying just to have it. Don't. If you want a Pixel, get the old one. It's perfectly fine, perfectly usable."
And they're having a fire sale on them now.
Well, and I'll say this. I really don't like the fact that Google is purposefully holding some of the technology ransom, and it's pure software, nothing more than software on the Pixel devices, and that is the caller ID scanner app. Where if it is a scammer, your Pixel device won't even ring. The simple fact that they're holding back on that technology to any degree, to me, is a very insulting thing to do. When the FCC themselves said they believe in under a year, over 46% or 48% of all phone calls to mobile phones are going to be scam calls. For you, Google, to hold that back for the average consumer is it's telling is the way I'll put it. It's very telling, and it's what makes me as an individual not want to partake in your company's bar mitzvahs, Halloween parties, whatever. I don't want to participate when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, the don't be evil is a thing of the past. I'm not calling that evil, but it definitely isn't humanitarian.
Yeah, and I think the day of reckoning for Android, literally, it could be less than 2, 3 years away to where something else might come up and Android get its comeuppance. Um, when something is number one, there's only one way to go, and that's down. And the number of devices right now sold, by far, number one is Android. So,
That is true, but it's also misleading because it's that's probably 10 to 12 different OS versions across the multiple countries. There's still devices selling honeycomb. So that's not the Android we know today. But yes, it fits that stat of it's Android, but it's not modern Android.
right. And it could take 10, 15 years. I don't know. I have no idea. But I will say I'm a guy who craves competition on all fronts. So I want something else to stand up and demand to be seen, not the Palm phone.
All right. So we are almost an hour in. We've had some great discussions, but only two apps. Let's go ahead and go straight for the tank emptying.
Okay, this app I got to bring for a couple reasons. One, it could be really useful or functional for a lot of people out there, besides just me. I'll say, and I don't even know how to pronounce this one. Wysa,
Yeah.
uh,
Wysa, Wysa. I can get
Wysa. I don't know. It says AI therapy for stress, anxiety, and depression, by Touchkin Health and Fitness. Does have in-app purchases, no ads, free to download and install, 8,835 reviews, 4.5 average reviews, updated October 18, 2018, 6.1 megs, 100,000 plus installs, current version 0.7.0.3, requires Android 4 and up. Um, I'll just say this. I have a hard time, and these are terms I don't know how else to put it, but I have a hard time bearing my soul, like being belligerently honest with AI or a bot or a script or an algorithm or however you want to define what the hell this phone app does. I have a really hard time being upfront and honest with it. I don't know. Name man, Mark. I'll say that I've not ever sat with an actual therapist. I have to say this correctly. I really haven't sat down with an appropriate therapist for any length of time to actually test whether or not I would be honest with them. But I'm not feeling like I'm comfortable being honest with that.
I think a lot of people would find the opposite to be true, that they would feel more comfortable bearing their soul to something that is artificial and therefore non-judgmental and only capable of canned responses than a human who might look down on them.
I don't know. I mean, I got to the point, I launched it, I opened it up, it like started asking questions, and it literally gave like a speech bubble and for like 3 or 5 seconds. I'm like, "What?" It's literally programmed to look like it's typing for 5 seconds. Somebody actually sat down and said, "Now, well, how long? Less 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds, 6, no, 5, just 5 seconds, have the bubble pop up, and then say this." I mean, that's all I could think about as I was launching it, so I didn't get very far with it, is what I'll say. But
You know,
it's interesting.
on that line, I recognize that in many ways I am an atypical human being, but I get frustrated, angry, enraged when I'm talking to a digital assistant and the fake keyboard clicks come on while the computer is doing something. What is the nature of your emergency? I would like to open a new account. I can help you with that. Click, 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 click.
Eh,
I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it's like a lie. It's a lie. You are lying to me. You're trying to pass yourself off as a human, and you have failed miserably. But the fact that you're even trying, frankly, pisses me off. I want you to just admit right up front, I'm a computer, and and say, Star Trek style processing every time you're doing something instead of trying to do the keyboard clicks. And maybe I would have the same response to this, but I just get almost righteously indignant every time I hear that lie to me that tells me that this is a trying to pretend to be a person on the other end.
yeah, it's almost like every time I get a help desk call and it's from an internal customer, the first thing I do is I immediately, literally sometimes seconds, I send that person a question. And really, the question is to do nothing more than distract them and delay them while I try to find the real answer.
Yeah, while you Google it.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly. But I want things to be honest with me like that. Like, now, while we try to figure out what the hell was going on, listen to this. Do, 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 something. Just be honest. Um, Here's an app though that I'm pretty sure has no fake mumbo jumbo going on, Mark. Um, I will say you have to unequivocally prove who you are and where you live for this app to work. Okay. This is called Informed Delivery from the United States Postal Service business app, E for everyone. Um, no in-app ads, no in-app purchases, free to download. 1,585 reviews. I read it correctly. Sorry, yes, 2.4 average reviews, updated September 11, 2018, 9.3 megs in size, 100,000 plus installs, current version 2.4.0.0, 5.1 Android and up. This is a really handy dandy way that you can monitor what is being shipped to your house without having to rely on third party places to give you tracking information or on you going to their website and doing tracking and tracing. This will instead do the opposite. And the post office will tell you how much stuff is coming to your house and when it's coming to your house.
They do that on the website now. You can go to USPS.com and do that now.
Yes and no. This is the opposite. This you prove who you are, and they will tell you when something is shipping to your house.
Proactively. Yeah.
Yes. Where the other way you always gotta wait for them, send the email, da, 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 you jump through the hoops. This was marginally easier, is what I'll say, Mark. But here's the gimmick. If you're not an Amazon guy where I'm ordering from a bunch of different sites and services now, I think this is more beneficial. If there's maybe, is what I'll say. It was cool. It was a pain in the butt to get certified, though.
And like everything you've come to expect from the United States Postal Service, it has a 2.4 out of 5-star review. And the first 4 visible reviews on the page are all start with things like, stopped working. This app is pretty much a dumpster fire. Trash again. I wish I could post a screenshot, but the app crashed. So, these are the sort of things that we've come to expect from our fine government agencies.
I'm happy they're able to meet your standards of expectations and don't expect anything more. There's a post office by my work, Mark. They literally take a 2-hour lunch break and lock the door. Literally. From noon to 2, I sat out front, not able to get into their building. And then they opened up the door at 2, laughing at me for waiting out there for so long. I didn't know what to say.
I'm only mad because I don't have a post office job.
Well, um, I would never wish that upon anybody, Mark. My goodness. Here's a game that I saw, and the only thing I thought, Mark, was this is not really a game. This is almost like pretend work,
It's a simulator. Yeah.
but it's a bad one. And my kid loved it. It's called Dig In, a a Excavator Game by Sim Coach Games Simulation. No in-app ads, no in-app purchases. If I read everything correctly, um, free to download. 49 reviews, E for everyone. 4.8 average reviews, updated October 9th, 2018, 53 megs in size, 5,000 plus installs, current version 1.2, Android 4.1 and up is all that you need. Um, it's very blocky, um, um, polygon driven graphics that look like something from like old PS1 days or worse. And you got to go around with your excavator and do menial task.
Rhino in the chat room says it's a virtual Tonka toy. That's a good way to put it.
Basically, yeah. And then there's at some point in game where in the video they show him playing basketball and then like playing some sort of like miniature golf type thing.
Have you seen the guys on YouTube that do amazing feats with front end loaders and scoops and things like that?
Mhm.
It's amazing. They open wine bottles and pour champagne with 20-ton machines. It's cool. But one of the ads or one of the comments is a nice simulator, but I don't like that it keeps offering me a real life job. At least have an option to turn that off. I just want to play the dang game. That's funny. So maybe this is some sort of company's fitness simulator.
Well, and at the very end, the video did say it was sponsored by, I think it was called IOU. It was a union.
So it could be if you have the skills to do this. This is just a recruiting tool.
Yeah, IUOE, Local 66 sponsored the game.
All right.
Me and Mark were coincidentally talking about unions before the show, and no, it wasn't good. Last thing I was going to bring up, Mark, and only because I found it interesting. It's Google related, not really Android related, unless of course you get a little crafty. Neverwhere. Neverwhere is a company that Google gave millions to last year. They're a company, all they did was they took a customized Chrome OS very loosely, very loosely. Um, you cannot, as an end user, install Google Chrome. I'm sorry, Chrome OS. Period. 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 You're not doing it. You can't do it. You're not doing it. Um, Neverwhere was releasing a version of Google Chrome lightly wrapped around a Linux operating system, and they did a really good job. It is not Chrome OS. You do not get the benefits of Chrome OS. You do not get the security benefits of Chrome OS, but it's like Chrome OS. And Google gave them money. They thought they were doing such good work, and now schools in London are taking Neverwhere and putting it on computers and introducing them into a Chrome OS for education environment, and they're having success. I don't know if you know about Chrome for education, Mark, but it's actually pretty successful so far. I'll say making crap tons of money, selling lots of them. The people I know that manage such environments constantly remind me of how much more stable it is and how much easier it is than any Windows environment they ever managed. And versus Apple, it's actually manageable. Where with Apple stuff, there's no management involved in actuality. You just release them into the wild and hope they don't do stuff on them too bad. So this is good in the Google sense. I like kids being surrounded by more more generic computing stuff rather than, Microsoft Word, MacBooks, stuff like that.
It's nice to know that they caught up with where I was in education 8 years ago. Congratulations, London.
Well, most of the US is still behind too, I'll say. Yeah, it's a really good way to recycle money and use old things because I don't know if you know, Mark, but there's a lot of rumblings I've heard in the last couple of years that no one will even accept old computers anymore because they have no use for them.
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, what?
Yeah, I'm gonna call a little bit of BS on this picture here because I'm looking at these computers and I recognize that style of computer. I have a rough idea of how old they are, and none of them are plugged into anything. At that age, those laptops have about 30 minutes of battery life. And, that's gonna be the issue with reusing old laptops, which is why when I was in education, we stayed away from laptops and used desktops because they have a much longer life cycle or
Well,
have.
and not only that, but they're parsable. You can parse them out and replace
Mm.
pieces and parts very easily. Um, I
Did I
will
ever tell
say
you about the case experiment I did?
case.
Case, yeah. So I had a bunch of old beige boxes. They were probably early model Pentiums. They were that old. But they were running a thin client OS and they were super smooth and they ran really well. But they were old, beat up computers. And the teachers at the school where I worked would not use them. They complained about them. They said they're old, they're slow, they don't work. I took all of those computers back out of their rooms, about 100 of them. I bought $1,000 worth of $10 cases that were shiny and new and black. And I put the old components in the new cases and told we use the same old monitors. I told them I couldn't afford new monitors, but I did get you new computers. And they raved about them. They were the best thing ever. They ran so much better, so much faster. They were so much smoother because I changed them from beige to black. Placebo is a thing.
Oh, it's a real thing. I honestly wish I lived in your town and you would have told me that like 8 months after you did it, because then I would just go talk to as many of the teachers as I can, and then literally get as many in a group as I can and just lambast them. Just go ballistic on them. And Mark, I cannot believe you would suggest that a journalist, because that's what this is, this journalist would actually fabricate an image just to make the picture look better for a clickbait type article. I'm shocked you would suggest such a thing happens.
Well,
Oh,
he had to take his picture quick because those batteries were going to go dead really quickly.
right. And in the back, that smartboard thing, Mark, my kid's school has one. We have one at work. I love hate those things, is what
Yeah.
I'll say.
When they work, they're awesome. When they work.
Yeah, we changed at work. Now we have something. It's basically a gigantic TV, 60-inch like TV with a computer built in that you can from Windows display something to it. It's Windows. I don't know.
Right. All right. What else you got, Dor? Is that it?
Uh, that's really the only things that I will say was like crazy interested in. I will say the only other article that I found that actually caught my attention and I hate sites that do that thing, Mark, that you mentioned, where you take the mouse away, it pops up, "Hey, before you go." I hate that. But this is an article on Android Authority. Make sure you have your pop-up blocker, your ad blocker turned on before you go to such a site. 15 best games with gamepad support for Android. Most of these are older games, is what I'm going to say. But some of them are really, really damn good, is what I'm going to say. Evo Land, utterly fantastic game. Horizon Chase, fantastic game. Minecraft, of course, is on the list. Oceanhorn, fantastic game. Odd World Series, oldie but fantastic game. Riptide GP series, like Wave Race, well, water ski jet type game. If you want to play with the gamepad at all, I encourage you try these types of games first.
All right. I don't have any experience with a gamepad, so I can't comment.
Well, I mean,
So
there are some people who just don't play games.
what I will do instead is read an email from our friend Greg. Says I listened to one of the hosts. I listened as one of the hosts commented on why the Netflix VR app has a fixed screen size and a couch. That was me. Well, on the Gear VR, the only VR set I have, so I can't speak for others, there's an option in the upper left of the screen to turn off the environment. This allows you to resize the screen to whatever you want and put it in to follow your head mode. I use this when I go to bed, and I don't want the screen to keep wide awake. I want the screen to keep the wide awake, keep me wide awake. I'm sorry, I can't follow that.
The wife awake.
The wife awake. Ah, there we go. I use this when I go to bed, and I don't want the screen to keep the wife awake. Makes a lot more sense. VR experience or not, it makes a perfect spouse saver if one of you is an early bird and the other's a night owl. Thanks, Greg, aka Orion. Well, it's nice to know you can turn that off. Okay, I like the idea of a 40-story screen on my face. If it's that would actually get me to buy the thing more than anything else, knowing that is that immersive viewing experience.
And I get the fact you don't want to wake your wife up. I'll say this: I'm the opposite. My wife is upset at the fact that I believe I'm a Vulcan. I'm a Vulcan. Hi, my name's DoorToDoorGeek. I'm a Vulcan. The bed's for sleeping. I go to bed, I'm sleeping. That's why I go to bed. I don't go to bed to watch TV. I go to bed to sleep. I want to watch TV. I'll go to the living room, watch TV. And with me, the one thing I'll say I don't like about VR, at least right now, Mark, is watching the movies in them. Most of the reason I watch a movie, I'm watching it to have the experience with my son or my wife or somebody right there next to me. So we can both watch the movie. I don't like the isolation of a VR headset, and that's because I've not experienced any collaborative movie watching, which I'm sure is possible in the Plex app. I want to say it is, um, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to turn my head and see a virtual avatar of somebody and say something, and then have them look at me and go, "Shh." I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you got your headphones in, do you have to have a microphone to have that virtual conversation, or you just have to trust they're going to hear you? I don't know how that works.
I'm not sure. Oh, and I'll say this, Mark. Because it's the only chance I get to say it. Nintendo Switch, NES Online, you get an NES Classic, basically application where right now you get 24 games to play on it, where you have save states on it, so you can get to a certain spot, save the state, exit out, come back, play whatever you want. I tell you, man, the old NES golf, the old ice hockey, the original Tecmo Bowl, not Super Tecmo Bowl, because both of them were on NES. I really hope Super Tecmo Bowl comes out for it, because being able to record your stats for the whole season and see at the end of the year, I had 65 sacks. Beat that. It is really a fun experience, and the fact that it's portable, and at any point in time you just click the screen off and then click the screen on and just start playing again. um it is a hell of a lot of nostalgia going on there.
I remember when I had Sega Genesis, I think it was. It might have been the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, not PlayStation, Xbox. But anyway, the one of the games, I think it was Madden. You could build your own players, right? And so I had my team of a 22-man roster. I didn't fill out everybody. I had one position on offense and defense. They were all like 7 feet 2 inches, 600 pounds, all monsters. And I went to the Super Bowl, quote unquote, like not only undefeated but winning hundreds to nothing everything. And that was a fun little experience that showed how immature I was. But when you talk about Tecmo Bowl, that's going way back, way back. And the saving of the state thing, right? You couldn't do that on the old Nintendo, could you? Or maybe not the original one.
No, there was no saving states. Best case scenario, the games would have codes ridiculously long code you would have to type, and they would only restart you at very certain spots. The first game to have an in battery save feature was Legend of Zelda, and not
Yeah.
many games had it.
Yeah, the gaming has changed.
Oh,
And so
completely.
yeah,
Completely. Nintendo hard is now a term where back then it was just Nintendo. That's just how games were. They were
right.
supposed to be hard. They were supposed to be difficult. They were supposed to make it so you would get a dent in your finger and you would cuss kind of thing. And you would want to throw the controller and you would. And guess what? If that controller would ricochet, come back and hit you, you'd be hurt.
Yeah. You started at level 1 and you ended at level 99. If you died anywhere in between, yeah, you start over again at level 1. It's just the way it is.
Oh yeah.
That's why millennials today are so soft. It's game save states. That's what's done it. That's what's ruined our culture.
Well, is it art influencing life or life influencing art?
It's too hard.
I
I don't know.
I don't know, but I know, um, on the son's or the kid's Wii U, I believe it was a Super Mario Brothers game they were playing, side scrolling, and what my son figured out on World 1-3 was if you die 7 times, Luigi will pop up and ask, "Do you want me do you want me to show you how to beat this stage?" You hit yes. He basically walks through the stage nonstop, and at the very end, he says, "Do you want me to mark you as complete?" And my son clicked yes. So he went through the entire game like that, all the way up to 8-4, whatever it was at the end of the game, and he could not beat the last stage, and Luigi would not pop up and help him. So he asked me for help. I literally never played the game before. Sat down, played the game. 10 minutes later, the game was beat. And I threw the controller. I said I would never play this game again. It's one of the worst games I've ever played. Give me old Nintendo difficult, because this is not Nintendo difficult anymore. This was Nintendo easy.
Hmm.
It's crap.
Well, let me take a few minutes to thank our 3 new patrons on patreon.com. That is Bob Forgy, Nikolai Groot, and Mark Daythorn. I apologize if I ruined any of your names. You have all stood up and been counted as supporting the show, and we thank you so much for your support. If you would like to be as cool as Bob, Nikolai, and Mark, you can do so by going to Element OP. No, that's my show. By going to patreon.com/Android App Addicts and making your donation. Door has it set up monthly, so you could pledge $1 a month, a quarter a week out of your life. It's not about the money. It's about standing up and being counted, about joining the community and saying, I believe in listener supported, advertisement free, loud, live, and independent content. Patreon.com/Android App Addicts.
Yeah, and I want to say people think Colin McGregor in UFC is a loudmouth Irish guy. Let me tell you something. He doesn't hold a candle, because I said it and I'll say it again. If you cannot afford $1 a month to give to those that you partake in, you need to contact me and I will help you earn more money. Nobody contacted me and said, "Hey, I'm not making enough money." I find that incredibly hard to believe, is what I'm going to say. Skeptical looking at the people out there. Um, uh, and because a lot of other podcasters that I experience, again, I subscribe to over 140 podcasts, they don't even reply to emails. They don't even reply to people back again. If you have in the subject line, "I need more money" or something like that, I can virtually guarantee you'll get a quick reply. And if you're just trolling me, I'll sniff it out quick. Especially if it says "sent from my iPhone." Yeah. First world problems.
Your iPhone. All right. Well, I think I can do nothing more now but to end the show. Say thanks everybody for listening. Let me go through the small but a quality group of apps that we have tonight. Google Maps, specifically the fact that you can now share your trip progress. Prince of Persia Escape by Catch App Arcade. Wysa, AI therapy for stress, anxiety, and depression by Touchkin. Informed Delivery by United States Postal service. Dig in and aim by Sim Coach Games, and over on Android Central, be sure to have your ad blockers loaded. 15 best games with gamepad support for Android. So that's it. It was a mixed bag tonight. Discussion, apps, and Door talking about Nintendo hard. It's a win-win all the way around. Thanks for being with us, listener. Thank you for allowing me to be the host and the I'm a fan of the show first, and a host second. So I enjoy being here. Door, what are your final words of wisdom for the night?
Make sure you take care of everyone. We're getting to the winter time. I literally just sent a donation to a good friend of mine who's down in Florida who got hit by the hurricane. The one thing that I honestly think has always made this country great is its ability for individuals to support individuals. Reach out, find somebody you know who needs help this year, and just do what you can.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. That's it for this episode of Android App Addicts. All right. I'm ready to record my intro. I know exactly what it's going to be. Is your Nintendo hard or soft? Find out this week on Android App Addicts.
It didn't take long.
All right, I'm stopping the recording.
That's the other reason I know I'm getting an ear infection. My nose is running.
It is flu season. Have you had your shot yet?
I most of the time don't. Out of the last 13 years, I've gotten it maybe 5 times. I did get it it was at least a month ago. I got it early. I went and I can't remember what I was doing. And right there at Rite Aid, which is now Walgreens or whatever, it said, ask about our free flu shot. So I like free. She said, well, just sign this paper. And then she asked me, when was the last time you got a tetanus shot? I don't know what I ate for dinner 2 nights ago. And she's like, well, you're getting one. Oh, okay.
For free? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they ended up billing my insurance company $70. I think it was $70, and my insurance company only gave him 40.
That's typical.
Right.
I mean, the typical reimbursement is 30 to 40 to 50%. Yeah.
Right. Right. And the wife was shocked. She was like, I can't believe they would charge $70 for that. I said, what are you talking about?
They didn't. They charged 40, but they had to charge 70 to get 40.
I'm okay if they would have charged $100. I didn't pay nothing.
Right.
And charge whatever the hell they want to charge.
Medicine is the only industry where you can go and have service performed and leave and not know how much it cost.
I know. I do because I live it, but I don't. How can we accept this? You can go anywhere and say, I need to have this kind of surgery. How much is it going to cost me? They can't give you an answer.
Right.
They literally cannot.
I mean, if you went to your mechanic and said, I need an oil change and 4 new tires, and he said, great, we'll do that, and we'll send you a bill in 60 to 90 days. Well, how much is the bill? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
No one else, no other business would get away with that. But medical care, it's just the way it is. Medical care in the U.S.
Yeah, and I said to my wife, healthcare, you can't just say it's free.
Oh, no, somebody's paying for it.
Well, no, it doesn't matter because that's a given. Somebody's paying for it. You have to draw the line. Where's the line? Am I free to sit out on a city street curb and die if I want to? You know what I mean? Where are you going to draw the line? You know what I mean? Am I going to walk into a place with a sniffle and push a baby out of the way and demand I need service right now? I mean, where's the line? You can't just say it's free. There's a lot of little details that go along with it. But yeah, I mean, you know, the amount we would have to pay in taxes to have such thing happen scares the hell out of me. And this is what I can't believe. This is what I really can't believe, Mark. I have a relative who is 10 plus year heroin addict. I don't even know how long. It's a long time. And they said there's no way healthcare should be free for everyone. She said, "Do you realize how much I would cost you people?"
Mm-hmm.
I was like, What do you mean?" She said, "How much do you pay as a family for health insurance?" And it was like three something. I can't even remember now. I want to say 360 or 380. And they just laughed. It's like, for me, it's over $400 a month. And there's a reason for that. I'm messed up. I was like, oh,
Right.
not going to argue with them.
I don't remember who said it. I think it was a senator, but who said, "Do you think healthcare is expensive now? What do you say how much it costs when it's free?"
Yeah. Yeah. And I say to the wife, I say, look, the one thing I don't want is government to regulate, to control. Because I said, tell me one thing the government is doing that you think they're doing a great job on. I'm waiting. Go ahead. You know, because really, I don't trust when life and death is on the line, aka healthcare. I have a very difficult time believing a government official will actually do what's right and have the people's best interest at heart. You know, I don't know. Call me a cynic or whatever. I don't know. I just don't, you know, I don't think they're, you know, good.
All right, sir. You should have my file in your possession.
Okay, this
And,
is the week I think I'm going to do the upgrade finally to Nextcloud. I got my Rock 64 board here with 4 gigs of RAM on it, gigabit NIC, terabyte external USB 3 drive on. It's functioning fine. Is the as far as I can tell, it's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically go back through the emails, take that same email I sent for the own cloud. Here's how you set it up. Here's the username. Here's the password. Here's this. Here's that. Do the same thing because it's the same thing. This is just an iteration of own cloud with a different name. So the good thing is what used to work still should work. You just have to replace a client if you have one with the new updated one. There is the ability if you want, I can give you your own instance and you can do federated cloud instances and the one-to-one VoIP calls are mind-bogglingly good, Mark, is what I'm going to say. So if you want to play with it at all, just let me know. I hope to have it done next week and you're already done uploading.
it would be nice if we could do that for instead of Google Hangouts.
I I know, and that's the research I gotta do. Is it more than just one to one? Because here's the thing, but me and the guy in Canada tested before marijuana became legal. We tested this. He had it running on his Raspberry Pi Zero. We both had accounts on it. I did. I downloaded on my Android device the app. We made a connection. He pulled the power on the Pi Zero, and we still talked for like 10 minutes. So the Pi is just there as the like original authentication mechanism between the parties, but then it's peer to peer, which explains why the quality was so damn good.
Yeah, Mumble Rhino is mentioning in the chat room. Mumble audio is not awesome. At least in my limited experience. It was a long time ago.
I'll just say it is what it is. The best possible thing about it is if you intend on having parties of like 6 or more people, to not do mumble, you're going to have horrible audio anyway. At least if you do mumble, you get uh, individual tracks for everyone in the party immediately without having to wait for uploads or anything. It had its use case.
Right.
All right, Mark, I'm going to continue documenting and get this thing.
Right. I'm out. I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy, man.
Bye, chat room. I think you're still streaming.
Yeah.
Okay. case you didn't know.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to finish documenting these damn apps. And why did that not do that? Did I type that wrong? I did. Okay, so copy. Yeah, I do like that. Nintendo Hard is a thing. I hate to say it, but I think that's going to be the name of it. I think that's going to be the name right now. I really do. Had somebody invite me to another conference today in California. I'm thinking to myself, California, dude. It's like the most expensive place in the US. I don't think I'm going to be able to go. Then I look at it. It's literally like in a month. You must be crazy. Bang. I feel like crap. Let's see. I did feel the ear infection like once during the show. Wasn't bad. Yeah, documentation will take a while. 2 people on the show. It makes it near impossible to document and talk and listen at the same time. Okay, save. Now, that's all saved. Now, what I really need to do is this. Uh, bang, bang. Uh, bang. And that. I don't care. Just let it be. No, I'm not giving you an image. You don't get an image. Prince of Persia. Escape. Bang, bang, bang. Post. Show. We did a show last week, Rhino. I couldn't even remember. That's how bad I am. Literally questioned it. All right, man. Take it easy, Rhino. I gotta finish documenting all this crap. I gotta eat something else. I'm starving. You know it's bad when it literally hurts. Your stomach literally hurts. Like this done. And I don't know why. Okay. And see, I do only because Knucklehead Tech bought both versions of it. The gimmick is there's 2 versions of it. There's the international version and the US version. The international version is the Mate SE. The non-international version has a different name and it has 1 gig less RAM. Um, and it costs like the same amount of money. So why the hell would you get it? So the Mate SE, uh, he's really happy with it. I would say it's to me a fair price for what you get on Amazon. It's 220. Okay, copy, paste, show apps. I will say honestly, bang for the buck, that essential is good. I don't know. It should come down a little bit more. The only question is how much more. But it's good hardware. I don't know if I trust the company. No. Huawei. There's people who say don't trust Huawei. Don't trust Honor. Um, I give the examples in China, they literally stop people to make sure you have the sanctioned app on your phone that at least they believe is how they keep track of you and how they monitor on you is that app not baked into the hardware. There's plenty of people that believe it's all baked into the hardware. I don't believe that. Dang. Did that right? I did that right. Wow. Of course, the kids are still up because, why would they be in bed? They don't have school tomorrow. Uh, uh, Control C, post, show apps, almost done. Lang. Oh, messed that up, didn't I? Copy image address. Completely forgot. Lang. Hell. Yeah, do that right. Let's get these images. I cannot believe I took me that long to get the damn spreadsheet link back into the notes. I don't know why. Okay. Now I'm caught up. Inform delivery. I did that. Uh, did that. Okay. Dang. Very cool. Take it easy, guys. Killing that. And then I'm going to kill the stream.